What makes you more excited about on like looking at this technology and learning about them? Like, what makes you excited, and what you think is going to be the best technology to work with in the future?
Like those platform as a service tools, I think
Mm-hmm.
just enable the speed for experimentation and actually being creative with your code. I'm more excited about those things even than the likes
Mm-hmm.
of ChatGPT or the current really hot stuff, because I think we will see really good use cases. And
The following is the conversation between me and Niall Maher. Niall is a code community builder and a tech reviewer for a large tech company. This is the most interesting conversation so far, so please leave a like, subscribe, and check our partners on the description. I just hit record me right now, so thank you, Niall, for coming. So we can start now. Then start talking about you, your background in tech, and yeah. So yeah, fire away.
perfect. So I originally got into software development and tech by Googling best job without a degree, because I was working in a wine shop for about $10 an hour and I started to get very sick.
Oh
I
my
had
god.
rheumatoid arthritis, so I literally couldn't pack shelves. So
Okay.
my shitty job was now in trouble. So I realized that if I could not um, walk, what could I do? So I was looking for options that wouldn't involve a lot of movement.
Hmm.
So I Googled best job without a degree. Software was clearly up there. And I
Mm-hmm.
decided, hey, I have no better options. Let's do this stuff. And I had built a couple of websites before that for my bands and things like that growing up, but I never thought anything of making a career out of the web, really.
All right.
That led into a year, I'd say, of learning online, just
Mm-hmm.
watching YouTube videos. I didn't go to college or anything. And then I just started applying for random jobs. One of the random jobs and my first job was Amdocs. It was a consultancy. So my job was kind of flying around the place and helping projects that had gone on fire,
Mm-hmm.
which it turned out wasn't the usual thing to do as a first job. So it
Mm-hmm.
was definitely baptism by fire, and I learned a lot and got to work with like Vodafone, Three Ireland, and a load of other huge like AT&T.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I had clients in Israel and everywhere
Oh,
else.
that's crazy.
Weird. It was so crazy for my first year. So then I kind of just started moving around after that. I
Mm-hmm.
went into senior role, tech lead role, architect role, head of product role, to a CTO role, and to currently where I am now is I am the inner source leader for a company called Marsh McLennan.
Okay.
Marsh McLennan are a 150-year-old company. I think they're in the top 200 wealthiest companies in the world. They're a holding group for hundreds, if not thousands, of other companies as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my job as the leader of Inner Source is to help them adopt an open source strategy, because if you can imagine having dozens of companies
Yeah.
that share the similar tech,
Mm-hmm.
why not use the same principles that we have from the open source world
Mm-hmm.
to actually get these different businesses and different smart people to start working together and collaborating and sharing technology, basically?
I see. I see what you mean. All right. Cool. So yeah. So apart from your work as well, I met you actually in Amsterdam. I don't know if you remember that, but then I remember you building these tech communities. It's called Codu. So
Mhm.
so So what role do you think this tech community or this coding community they have in the tech industry, and what is the benefit like of someone that's coming into tech to get into this coding community, and for experienced coders as well, because I know that's important too. I know that's important because of network and everything, but I like to hear for a fellow person who builds a community as well, like to talk about like the importance of these communities too.
Yeah, and I think we could just rant for hours on this topic, because you
Yes,
love
true.
community, I love community. You've a phenomenal community, and that's why I would drop anything to have a chat with you, Lucas, because you're doing phenomenal work, especially in Ireland for the ecosystem as well. For me, I originally started because I felt like an outsider when I was going to meetups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason I started. I wasn't trying to get anything out of it. I just thought when I went to meetups, I didn't feel very welcomed. I didn't
Okay.
really learn too much. And I just said, maybe I'll make a place that I feel comfortable and fit in with a bit better. And
Mm-hmm.
it turns out a lot of other people felt the same way. And that grew then into just opening up how we teach, what we teach, and
Mm-hmm.
connecting a lot of people. Why it's important for people, or why I think it's useful for people, is warm opportunities come up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a group with tons of smart people, and it's definitely easier to hear about jobs before they're posted and start applying via that way.
Sure.
That's one of the main benefits. But then also just knowing what's going on in the tech ecosystem and what you should be focusing on. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you're on something like Twitter or one of those other really public arenas,
Mm-hmm.
you can always feel like you're missing out on the next big thing, because there's
It's true.
always another framework, there's always more tech to learn.
Yes.
But then when you start speaking to real people, you're like, oh, wait, nobody cares about this. Nobody's getting paid for this. Nobody's doing any of that. And I feel a little bit more confident going, no, actually, I still need to go back and learn these things and the fundamentals that will
Mm-hmm.
build up these things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it also just, and for what I hope people get out of it, is just confidence in what they're learning and doing, and getting pushes when they're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the biggest benefit, I think, is just having, instead of having a mentor, having a whole community of mentors that could probably
Yeah.
jump in and help you at any time.
That's true. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, talking about this, to know about the technologies and be updated, more constantly updated, because you're part of a community and you can share this information faster with people that you trust more than an open space like Twitter. Uh, what do you think? What do you think from this emerging technology that's coming from these previous years, and as you working with open source as well? So, what those technologies you feel like in a short, medium future is going to be? Actually, not going to be, but what makes you more excited about on like looking at this technology and learning about them? Like, what makes you excited, and what you think is going to be the best technology to work with in the future?
Yeah, I think there's been a rise in developer experience or developer focused
Mm-hmm.
tools, and a lot of things we
Yeah.
see. And um, it's just the way the industry's going. It's like there's a lot of tools out there that just do stuff for you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you want a database, here's databases, or something like Superbase is something that I
Mm-hmm.
really like, because it's so easy to get started. Companies like Vercel will give you your pipelines and
Yeah.
everything out of the box. Like those platform as a service tools, I think,
Mm-hmm.
just enable the speed for experimentation and actually being creative with your code. I'm more excited about those things even than the likes of ChatGPT or the current really hot stuff, because I think we will see really good use cases and so much help coming from those tools. But for the day-to-day coding and development work, I can see a lot of industries where that won't impact immediately, or people won't be comfortable using that stuff yet because they don't really understand how the data is
Mm-hmm.
working. I work in a heavily regulated environment, so we can't just throw our data into a black box and hope it gives us better answers and then not know
Mm-hmm.
what happens to the data to a certain extent. So there's a lot of learning and things I have to go on a journey with to be more confident on, say, some of the emerging AI tech.
Yeah.
But for now, the stuff that I'm really excited about is the stuff that makes our life easier.
Mm.
One of the tools that I've been leaning on, which is kind of like a hybrid, is AWS CDK, their
Okay.
cloud development kit, which lets you write all your infrastructure in TypeScript. So I just think
Cool.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
So you
that's
can just like new class, new S3 bucket, new whatever, and I have my pipelines and everything all written in TypeScript, which is just so cool because I hate YAML, like most people.
yeah, that's the interesting part, because yeah, a lot of people have been talking about AI and how this is going to kill jobs and everything, and a lot of people, when ChatGPT came along, they was like, oh, the software development job is gone because of this. ChatGPT can do everything by the instruction, but they forget about like the whole infrastructure that's been created under the hood, like the likes of Next.js, which is allow you to build like faster and require less amount of brains to work with. And people don't understand that. And even the emerging of no code for me is being very interesting to see. But then at least, but still needs a little bit of more work. I believe, like even for the likes of like customization and then make something more specific for your company. But then all of these, I can just jump into the next topic because all of this part needs into the work, like some sort of like entrepreneurship or leadership for you to lead these tools. You know, you have to have like this. You have to have some sort of like knowledge what's going on to drive the development of a product, the development of a solution, to make a better execution of what you're building. So like you being in this position of leadership and you leading these changes on the current company that you're working with, and so what would be the advice you give for someone who looking to start reaching out for more leadership positions on the companies they work with today, or they wanted to learn how to become a leader as well?
Yeah. Good question. I get this quite a bit. A lot of people forget there's a couple of paths you can take to leadership. You don't have to be a manager leader in a place either. And I think I just start with that caveat.
Yeah.
Is there is the path of going to staff engineer, which often pays much better than management roles or leadership roles as well. So if you're an engineer or a nerd that likes building, I love building stuff as well. I just got pulled more so into the community aspect side of things. So like I love people as well. And it really tears me apart to try and have to pick which do I prefer. Do I prefer solving problems or the people aspect? So the first question I think when you're looking at the path of leadership is like, why do you want to become a leader? What is it that you want to do? Like if it's to get, like for me, it was, I want to teach and help people build up people around me. And because I knew my personal, I had a finite time that I could spend on developing cool solutions. And I knew much smarter people than me that could build way better than me, but I could nudge them in the right direction and help with everything else. But there is the other part of just going and being a leader as a developer. So I'm going to focus more on like the management side because that's the way I focused on it.
Definitely.
And the way I would say to get opportunities is to not ask for permission a lot of the time and start taking more responsibility and trying to come with solutions to things. So a lot of times I think developers were very guilty of getting guided by the details. We see a problem, we want an output. We forget to go up a level and start thinking about value. So I always say when you're starting to think of leadership and building teams and building products, what is the value add that you're bringing? How are you making the impact as that leader as well? And how can you make sure that the focus of the team you're managing is being spent correctly? If you disagree with the focus, you should usually speak up and things like that. And I found just being very vocal about where I think we could have improvements and things like that accelerated my career in management and leadership. Like it was a space of 3 or 4 years that I went from like a senior software engineer up to close to an executive level. And it was just more when I started to pivot and focus on the value add rather than the pieces or the components that we're building.
I see what you mean. Yeah, you're talking right now. Remember this video from Steve Jobs saying that leaders they usually they don't like to be leaders. They just become leaders because they have to. So they see like there's a path that can be followed. So they go there and they follow this path, and they, like you said, they don't ask for permission, and then they just do it, and then they become leaders. You know, and that's interesting because I've been having the experience on the community building and on my job as well, and it's very important to see as well the leader you wanted to be too. Like sometimes people just want to be leader just to be a leader, just to be in a higher position in the company because that's the path to go. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's not much like that, right?
Yeah, it's absolutely not like I think most of the time it's not like at all. You just end up falling in. Like when I became a head of product, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't my plan. I was a tech
Okay.
lead at the time, and the company promoted me because I kept on annoying them about how they could improve their product. So instead of instead of just being like, shut up and do your work, they're like, you know what, we're just going to pay you to do what you're doing anyway because you won't stop.
It's
And
true.
I relentlessly just wanted to improve their product, and I legitimately just wanted to improve the product. It wasn't me playing political games, which often
Mm-hmm.
happens. It was a case of, I think there's an opportunity here that we're totally missing,
Mm.
and I pushed along those buttons and accidentally ended up in leadership roles. Then from there on out,
All right.
um, yeah, the community though helps. I think you start seeing that when you start looking at people and managing events. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
people are hard.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
sometimes code is a lot easier because at least it gives you clear signals when it's wrong.
Mm. Yeah, it's true. And yeah, so for example, now you're close to executive leader, and then you grow like a lot on your career path. And so how do you, like, looking back or looking now where you are, like, so how do you think it is the way or the flow that you wanted to do to continue grow and learn as a professional? So like, how do you see, like, oh, that's my path here and I wanted to follow this path? And what is the resources or strategies that you use to stay up to date with what do you wanted to work with?
This is something I invest in heavily,
All
more
right.
than most people, and more than I would say most people would be comfortable with, in a
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm.
So I'm reminded by some of my friends. So my daily schedule is, I wake up at 6:30 and I
Okay.
study for 2 hours before work.
All
That
right.
is every day for the last probably 6 years.
Okay.
So this is a case of learning anything and everything for whatever, always just constantly trying to improve it. Like, it could be
Exactly.
a book on history, it could be a book on medicine, it could be whatever. I'll always start the day by reading something random,
Hmm.
then I might throw on an actual course on something like Pluralsight, Front-End Masters, Coursera, I don't know, whatever I'm
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
like. I chase my curiosity. That's always helped. Like, if I'm just interested in nerding things out,
Hmm.
I or like diving deeper into the details, I'll just follow that curiosity. Let it go. I don't try and pin myself to certain areas all that often
Okay.
unless I have something that I know needs attention. So often you'll identify weaknesses in your ability. One I noticed a couple of years ago was my ability to architect on cloud solutions and
All
things
right.
like that. So I spent a lot of time on AWS and building up that knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. Now I'm part of the AWS community builders group.
That's cool.
So, um, but that's just again because I knew I had the need and I started to fill it in. So
Hmm.
I think maybe the first thing is trying to figure out what you need to know or what you don't know,
Hmm.
and start prioritizing those things and really just like figure out what's number one, what could make the most impact for you today. um, I find that's also very handy when certain trends start popping up, that you don't drop everything. It's
Okay.
very easy to get excited again when we're looking at Twitter or LinkedIn and we see ChatGPT's going to take your job. Drop everything, learn it, or else you're dead. You're going to be so you go and you chase it. Now you've built some really cool stuff with ChatGPT, so I
Mm-hmm.
think that was worthwhile. But I mean, a lot of people are just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, and they don't have the focus that they need to get an expertise in an area, so that then they can guide other people with this stuff as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's I created. I created a small project called Terminal GPT, and my idea was just to demonstrate to people that it's just an API that you're gonna be using for anything you want, and you're not gonna be needed like a huge amount of knowledge base to learn about how to use GPT models, because it's already a trained model. You don't need to understand. It's just a black box. You can use it, and it's interesting to see like how you can play around. And I like it. It's very interesting. But then it's like you said, it can't be just like uh, being a specialist in crypto once and now a specialist in AI now, and then you're gonna be specialist in something in the future, because you have to actually really understand what is the technology, right? I think that it's kind of like misconception sometimes, and this social media, they drive this misconception sometimes.
And I'm an advocate for fundamentals always.
Yeah.
I that is probably the easiest way to get ahead of 90% of people is really grinding those fundamentals.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people get caught up and skip the fundamentals because they're too worried about the flash things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes apparent very quickly because as soon as something goes wrong, it's a nightmare to debug. You
Mm.
know, I seen a LinkedIn post earlier on today about like the people becoming AI debuggers is going to be the number one job in the future because like we're just gonna if we just trust things blindly to do things without really understanding the
Mm.
fundamentals, the model, the statistics underneath all this stuff, you you're kind of blind. You're flying things blind. It's going to be impossible to guide and teach people where you need to be able to help, and that's when people inevitably become stuck.
Yeah, I remember I saw this funny thing. Someone say that ChatGPT is epsiloning of coding, so it's gonna be get the basic of code and gonna spill this out to you, and they're gonna be copy and paste like you used to do on Stack Overflow, but then now is if it because the code is designed by humans, it's gonna be buggy anyway. So you're gonna be like I said, it's gonna be debugging AI now. That's interesting. It's interesting perspective, and I totally agree nowadays. And I've used sometimes, and I see clearly it's not an expert in coding, and you can see, for example, how it doesn't understand the basic fundamental concepts sometimes. It's interesting to see.
Right now, it is your drunk uncle talking shit. That's the way I describe it because it
Exactly.
confidently tells you wrong answers. So it's like this is exactly how you solve it, and you're like, no, Decent, this is nothing correct at all. It's a good thing to give you ideas, I think, but you
Hmm.
can't just blindly trust it. Not its current state, anyway. I hope it
Exactly.
improves. I think it will improve at the current rate.
Hmm.
But right now, that's the only way I'd call it is your yeah, it's your drunk uncle just talking shit. Like
Yeah.
it's so confident that it's right all the time,
Exactly.
which is worrying because it also tries to reinforce whatever you're asking. So
Mm,
if you
mm,
depending on how you ask it, it will try to it tries to agree with what you're asking. So it
mm,
won't say, hey, you're asking the wrong question, or hey, you're looking for the wrong thing. It will try and create the story that you're trying to build.
mm. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, yeah. So, and that's back a question now for me, and I would like to see like your input on that, because that is today a lot of people they getting started on coding, they're getting started in the job market, they're getting started to get their own first tech professional career, and so how we can how this professional gonna be growing and perfecting the way is in this new like ChatGPT world. Do you think like this person should rely way more like in Stack Overflow, or like what would be the best resources for these tech guys to new tech people to come into the market? Like what would be the best place for them to advance in their career as well?
Well, I think we would be biased and say join a community. That's going to be your quickest way
Exactly.
to.
It would
That's going to be your
be.
quickest way to excel because then you'll also find all the other shortcuts that other people have found out.
Exactly.
Um, the one thing I really like about these new AI code assistant tools and things are we lost something during COVID for a lot of developers, which is really
Mm,
difficult as a junior developer. Is we've lost over the shoulder learning.
mm,
So when we were in the office and always there, you'd hear your senior developers talk about a solution. You'd see them draw out diagrams. You'd see all the problem
yeah.
solving going on. You could ask questions. You could dive in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're home alone, and I know this is for the majority of people, even they're only part time in the office, so you don't get as much time
Yeah.
just with spontaneous learning. I think tools like AI tools and sites like Stack Overflow and forums like GitHub discussions and things like that become so much more important. And
Mm,
even the likes of Discord communities that
mm-hmm.
we have as well, because you lose that sense of curiosity, or just the ability to ask things and just change and
Yeah.
you know, it's often hard to send an official message to one of your peers, and this is feedback I've gotten from junior developers.
Mm.
It's very hard to, especially when you're new in the industry, to send silly questions to your seniors, because you're like, oh, I'm going to be found out, I'm an imposter, I'm stupid, and all of that stuff that goes on. If that's you, by the way, and you're listening to this, we're all stupid. We just get better at handling it as we go along. Um, I do think these tools, like just that over the shoulder learning, having that assistant there that you can kind of put in questions and prompts and guide you in this way is great.
Mm.
But I think Discord and a combination of those AI tools, and then embracing being stupid, is probably the three top things you can do to kind of excel
Hmm.
if you're trying to get into this industry.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a roundabout answer to your question.
No, it is. It is. And yeah, so you mentioned about the community, so then you can as well jump into Codu and explain how what is Codu and what you guys do, like, and where to find you guys as well, for these people to listen to actually join the community if they looking forward to join one.
Yeah, and this our community's been growing phenomenally since COVID. Actually, it's gotten a lot bigger, which is
Nice.
weird, and that's because I started streaming and doing things online. I
Oh,
think via
cool.
COVID, and I didn't realize it. I went back into an in-person place and it was full. I was like, oh, something happened. Codu is. I originally stole the word Codu from the Irish for coding or to code. I
Hmm.
seen it on like computer science uh, exam thing, CO fada, DU fada.
All right.
I thought two accents was cruel, so I left it with one accent.
Okay.
That's the history, the background of it. Codu is a community for developers, first and number one, a place that adult peers can help each other. I purposely want to make it a place for adults and that to learn together, because I often see a lot of these communities, by trying to include kids and everything else as
Mm.
well, it can be a little bit harder and uh, just not as open and transparent with a lot of the conversations
Yeah.
and difficulties that are going on with professional careers and things. So our goal is to really create a space like Coder Dojo for adults.
Okay. I
Um,
see what I mean.
that's the no, that's it, to put it succinctly. That's exactly what I'm trying to build. How we're getting there is we have our online community. That's our Discord. Anyone can join into that. If you just go to codu.co, you will sign up there. You'll get an email link, or an email with a link sent out to you to join in. We are then also building an open source project to help teach people for free.
All
Currently,
right.
that is just a blogging platform,
Mm-hmm.
but we are working on tools to give code challenges and full on curriculums to developers for free as well.
All right.
Um, because I learned to code for free, I kind of want to also give
Give
back
back for free.
all of the stuff for free as well. And we're doing that through mechanisms like sponsors and everything else. But um, I'm happy enough to lose money on Codu for the foreseeable future if I can just make sure people are being helped and feel
Exactly.
welcome, and yeah, are just feeling more confident in themselves going forward.
Nice. That's cool. And yeah, so that's one thing that I'd be interested to see on Kodu. And I don't know if you guys do this already, but one of the things I would like to see is like dojos. They say like you're gonna be like a coded dojo, and it'd be interesting to see like an online dojo and you can do coding challenges. It would be nice to see that. And I hope you guys building that. I don't know if you guys building at the moment, but I think that's a nice add-on to the community, I think, and I think it improves as well a sense of networking too.
Yeah, and that's why we're trying to map out the balance between online sessions where we all just get together
Hmm.
versus very formal sessions versus like having a specific topic that we're just getting on a call for. So we're still trying to map out what's the best thing for people. And this is
Hmm.
goes back to my product days, is you put something out and you see how positive the reaction is or how negative the reaction is, and you have to just wait and say, let's pivot a little bit and change it.
Mm.
So you'll constantly see tests for the next few years, if not forever. of us trying to find out what is the most beneficial to developers. But yes, the dojo spaces are front of mind. I'm trying to figure out if we should do those in person.
Mm.
I think yes is what's going to be the answer to that. We're going to do them in person, but also then have online sessions as well that will help.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, cool. And yeah, I think we tick all the boxes and all the other topics. But then I remember once you posted about Aristotle, and I know you like to talk about some philosopher. You like to read about philosophy, right? And I like that too. And that is this. I was reading recently about Immanuel Kant. Kant, I think that's the way you speak in English. And I got a quote from him that actually is relatable about work and stuff. And this quote I have here, I don't want to butcher him. And the quote is, our work is noble. The only ignoble thing is to live without working. So based on your experience, so like as a leader, the owner of a coding community, so how important do you think is how important do you think work is shaping an individual to the sense of purpose and identity? So like how do you think that we can promote a culture where like a type of work, all type of work is valuable, and all type of nitty gritty jobs that we do, they are valuable? I know it's a kind of like different question, but it's just
So, how do you? I guess I'm trying to understand. Is it that you? How do we not become our work, or how we can embrace it and work, evolve as people alongside the
exactly.
work?
Yeah,
There's two ways of looking at it.
it's more like how do you think like doing the job is doesn't make you lose your sense of individual. So like you're a human being and you have a purpose and identity. And how do you think it's important to notice that your work is not you, not you to become your work, and at the same time, like how we can promote a culture to be a valuable individual and do the work as well for the company.
Yeah. This goes back to really knowing what you value and what you want out of things as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to excel in a really short time span, you end up those lines will merge. And it's
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could say there is a healthy way to do it, but unfortunately, it usually ends up in a very unhealthy cycle to try and make up that uh, competitive grasp of things. Now that I'm through the other side of some of that grappling and things, I think it is back down to that chasing your curiosity and realizing that there is movement and you have the ability, if you've learned how to code or you've learned how to do whatever you do, or mastered a single thing, you can master something else. You're not tied to one job forever. You're not
Mm-hmm.
tied to a single expertise. It might be what you're good and what you're paid for now. If you dislike it or if you're feeling burnt out, go do something else. Like I
Mm.
said earlier, chase your curiosity. It's the one thing that keeps me passionate about learning is reading random things, and learning about random things, because my life isn't all coding.
Mm.
I like it, and it's, if you look on my LinkedIn and things like that, maybe that's what you think I am as a person.
Mm.
But in reality, that's only a piece of what we see as well. So I think
Exactly.
the other part of that is be careful what you view online and how you view these people. These are all personas. These are all just people's faces that are they want you to see. That's the stuff they've
Exactly.
put out there. Um, I'm sure if you went and had beers with myself and Lucas, that you'd be like, these guys are degenerates. We should absolutely not be trusting them with our code. These guys have, I am no longer trusting anything they told me to do because they are idiots.
I
Like
agree.
that's the truth. Because once you take off the professional mask and you put on your personal mask and you start having fun and behaving like you instinctually behave,
Mm-hmm.
it just, yeah, it's all of a sudden it feels very human.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, that was perfect, man. And yeah, so I think like I run out of topics here. So, that is anything else you wanted to talk about? That anything else you want to mention? Or you want to ask me?
Yeah, what I was curious about, what are you hoping to do with your community? Where is your community going? That's growing so fast. I love seeing the pictures on LinkedIn and everything else. And I know my partner is Spanish, so I've even
Mm-hmm.
been saying to her, "You need to go to Lucas's meetups because that's the place where you'll connect with other people who have the same
Exactly.
struggles as you do." Because I'm Irish, so there's a certain blind spot I have
Mm,
when it comes to people coming into Ireland and
I
dealing with
see.
those troubles and things as well. So I'm loving to see, like, what are you hoping to build out your community as well, or do you have a plan, or are you just enjoying the ride?
I'm enjoying the ride, and it's been very fun to do it. And one of the main things I've been working on is now that the community grows so much that got attention for other communities. So the IT in Dublin start with three guys. They wanted to go to Spire and have some beers. And they meet up at the Spire of Dublin, and then they went to a pub to have some beers, and then they decided to do this more online, and as it was a Google forum, and then they went to Facebook, where it got popular, and then since 2015 we've been doing these meetups, and now since like 2 years ago I become the organizer of the group, and the idea was actually always bring residents and talk to them about like the difficulties of getting a job now and get the critical skills that the working visa and other stuff. But then the community got a lot of traction from other communities as well. So we start seeing like doing our meetups. We start seeing a lot of people from Thailand, Nigeria. They came along because they got to know the group online, and they're like, okay, I'm going there because it's an expat community of coders. And then but the problem was we do the meetups in Portuguese, so it's a little bit difficult for people to understand Portuguese. And then we decided to now get this meetup and make another one that's in a different time that we can open for everyone. And I believe now when we launch the next one, I invite you and I send you like the link and everything when it's going to be, and then you can show up
Oh,
there
absolutely,
and
Codu.
enjoy there.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. I knew I would not get much out of it not speaking Portuguese. So.
Exactly. And then yeah, so it's been growing a lot, and then I've launched now a different community called Higher Brain, and this community is focused now more on job interviews and CV preparation. It's more like very niche for that. And it's been growing too, but it's not as IT in Dublin because IT in Dublin is more broad and there is more topics that you can explore there. But I'm happy with both of them, and I think it's been great. It's been a great experience to build this community because the amount of feedback that it got and the amount of people that they went through the struggle to get a job and now they have the job is like it's kind of fulfilling. I always been very skeptical about these people who do volunteer work and they do like this job for all the people and that they feel the joy to have all the other each other. And then now I can see the value of being recognized as someone that help other people, and that's very interesting. That's very fascinating for me.
And you asked earlier, how do you not get wrapped up
Yeah,
in your work or like becoming what you work? I think it's to remember as humans that we're social creatures and
exactly.
we should help each other.
Yeah,
And if we can, absolutely do it. I know a lot of people aren't in the place to help right now, but fingers crossed, if you're interested in topics like this and everything else, like you're on the right path to
yeah,
becoming an extremely valuable technologist, manager, whatever it happens to be. Um, but then you will have somebody who will want to follow behind you in a very similar path. So even if you can help one person, it's hugely
yeah.
rewarding. I've seen 4 people in my community get their first jobs in the last month, and it
Mm.
was just like how awesome. They're just
Yeah,
talking, they're
that's
writing
amazing.
articles, they're teaching, they're getting involved, and yeah, it's just so nice to see people succeed and
Yeah,
to say thank you because like you also don't feel like you did anything. I don't know if you feel that. It's just like, hey,
No, I
I
don't
just
feel do
organized
anything.
some beers.
Exactly. For me, it's more like for. I remember one guy. He came to one of the meetups and he said to me, "Oh, I got this job offer, and look, this is a Brazilian, and he got a job offer, and the company say I'm gonna sponsor your visa." And then he went to the meetup and like, I don't know if you want to get it. And then I asked him like, do you like the company? I do. Do you like the job you're going to perform? I do. So what are you waiting for? And then 1 month later, he came back to the meetup and then he said in front of everyone, now, if it wasn't Lucas to give that little push, that little nudge, I wouldn't get the job. I was like, well, yeah, I was just being the reason there. You already have made the decision. You just like as a social being, it's just seeking out other people to understand if your decision is correct. So it's important to see like I didn't do anything. I was just like someone to add to his reasons to get the job. That's what I feel like.
And it's so awesome when you see that kind of feedback from people as well, like that
Yeah.
you are the person that they believe it was you that did that for
It's
them.
true.
Even though it's a small nudge that is all it was for you, but it's huge for the people that are in the position or a little bit lost. And we've all been in a position where we felt
Yeah.
lost. So yeah, without being too philosophical about it, try and light somebody else's way. You can really help people out very easily on
It's
this
true.
stuff. And usually all it takes is having a conversation. Be willing to spend some time with people and sincerely listen.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, man, it was great to talk to you, guy. Niall.
Well,
Thank you.
I've one last thing before we
Yeah,
go, right?
definitely.
We will have to team up and
Exactly.
do a
Yeah.
hackathon soon with our two communities. Why we haven't done that yet?
It's true.
It would
It's
be
true.
great fun.
No, definitely. I think we should do. I think we should get the communities together, do a nice hackathon, and even more because like Codu is open source as well, so that's great. So I believe that's a lot of things that people can contribute to, and I think a hackathon would be nice. Let's team up. Let's do this, man. I'm very open
Yeah,
for it.
absolutely. Because I've already got people like I know we have an event I'm co-organizing with AWS coming up and other things. So we're starting to get the right people involved.
Yes.
I think the two of us we could make a really cool hackathon.
Oh man, definitely. Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right,
Hey,
Lucas,
listen,
it
man.
was so much fun talking to you.
That was extremely fun, man. Thank you very much. Thank you for your inputs, and I think it's gonna be amazing. So.